The night the kingdom burned, betrayal had already taken root in silence, and before I dive into this story of blood, loyalty, and treachery, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. It helps more than you know, and trust me, you'll want to stay until the end of this one. The story begins under a crimson sky. The capital of Eryndor pulsed with tension that night. Word had spread like wildfire. The enemy banners were seen on the horizon, their torches painting the distant hills with a line of fire. The people whispered that war was finally here. Yet few understood that war was not the true danger. Betrayal was. Prince Kaelen, heir to the throne, stood at the highest balcony of the citadel, staring at the black horizon. His heart thundered, not only from the threat of invasion, but from something far more personal. He knew that within these walls, someone close to him was preparing to strike a knife into his back. The court was already divided. His father, King Alaric, was ill, so weak that he barely rose from his bed. The lords who once bowed with loyalty now whispered in secret councils, weighing whether Kaelen was strong enough to lead them, or if another should take his place. And Kaelen knew that another had a face he once trusted. Inside the grand hall, feasts were held as if nothing were wrong. Laughter rang, goblets clashed, and courtiers danced in silks while soldiers bled at the borders. It was a masquerade of loyalty. Kaelen moved through the crowd, forcing smiles, returning nods. His eyes searched for Leora, the woman he loved. She had always been at his side through battles and schemes, her sharp mind guiding him when his own faltered. She was not only his confidant, she was promised to him. But tonight, she was not at his side. He found her instead across the hall, standing too close to his half-brother, Lord Darius Vaynor. Darius was not of royal blood, at least not officially. The whispers said he was the bastard son of King Alaric from a long-forgotten affair. But bastard or not, Darius was dangerous, charismatic, ambitious, the kind of man who could turn whispers into armies. And as Kaelen watched from the shadows, Leora leaned closer to Darius. She smiled in a way she once reserved only for Kaelen. The heir's chest tightened. Betrayal, like a seed, had already sprouted. Later that night, Kaelen confronted her. "Why were you speaking to him?" he demanded, gripping her wrist as they stood alone in the candlelit corridors. Leora's eyes, once soft, now burned with defiance. "You think you're the only one capable of saving this kingdom?" she whispered. "Your father is dying. Your council doubts you. And you doubt yourself. Darius doesn't." The words cut deeper than any blade. "Do you love him?" Kaelen's voice broke. Silence. Her eyes flickered away. And in that silence, Kaelen understood the truth. That same night, a messenger arrived, blooded and breathless. "The enemy has crossed the river. The eastern watchtowers have fallen." Panic erupted in the castle. Bells rang. Soldiers scrambled to walls. Nobles fled into chambers. But amidst the chaos, Kaelen saw something else. A shadow moving too quickly, guards turning the wrong direction, a gate opening when it should have stayed closed. This was not merely invasion. It was conspiracy. Someone inside the castle was helping the enemy breach the walls. And Kaelen feared he already knew who. The siege began with thunder. Flaming arrows rained over Eryndor's walls, the sky choked with smoke. Siege towers rolled forward like iron beasts, and the screams of the dying filled the air. Kaelen armed himself, leading his men to defend the eastern gate. His sword, the blade of his ancestors, flashed in the inferno's light. But amidst the chaos, he kept searching for Darius, for Leora. And when he finally found them, it was not where he expected. Through smoke and rubble, Kaelen saw Darius standing atop the wall, not fighting, not defending. He was signaling, waving a torch in a pattern. The enemy's catapults shifted their aim, not at the walls, but at the very heart of the citadel, at the king's chambers. The citadel trembled under fire. Stone cracked, towers collapsed, and the night filled with the glow of burning timber. Kaelen cut his way through the invaders, rage and grief carrying his blade faster than thought. Every step toward the royal chambers felt like a march through hell. When he burst inside, he found the king's bedchamber in ruins. The once mighty King Alaric lay beneath shattered beams, blood dripping from his lips. Beside him knelt Darius, and at his side Leora. Kaelen froze. Darius did not. He rose slowly, sword glinting in the firelight, his smirk as sharp as any dagger. "Brother," he said, voice heavy with mockery. "Or should I say obstacle?" Leora avoided Kaelen's eyes, but her silence spoke louder than any oath. She had chosen. Kaelen's fury drowned out the roar of the siege. "You betrayed me," he spat. "No," Darius corrected. "I saved her. I saved us. This kingdom is dying, Kaelen. Father's reign is ash, and you cling to honor while the world changes. You would rather watch Eryndor burn than share its throne." Kaelen's hand shook on his sword. His father reached for him weakly, lips forming broken words. "Kael protect," but the king's voice faded forever. The two brothers clashed as the world collapsed around them. Sparks screamed from steel, their swords locking with the weight of hatred and bloodline. Kaelen's rage gave him strength, but Darius' cunning gave him speed. Blades struck, walls fell, fire devoured the chamber. And then, betrayal struck deeper. As Kaelen gained the upper hand, forcing Darius to his knees, Leora moved. She drew a hidden dagger and drove it toward Kaelen's back. He barely turned in time, the blade slicing across his arm instead of his heart. Pain seared him, but what burned more was her face, the face he once dreamed of marrying, now twisted with cold resolve. "You were never meant to rule," she whispered. With a roar of anguish, Kaelen struck back. His sword plunged through Darius' chest, the bastard prince collapsing with a gasp of disbelief. But in that same instant, Leora's dagger pierced Kaelen's side. The world went black. When Kaelen woke, the citadel was gone. He lay among ashes and corpses, the kingdom reduced to rubble. The enemy had withdrawn, their purpose fulfilled, the throne shattered, its heirs broken. But Kaelen still breathed, and with each breath came something darker, the certainty that he had been spared not by fate, but by cruelty. He staggered through the ruins, his wound festering, his heart colder than stone. Everywhere he looked, he saw ghosts of loyalty lost, promises broken. And on the walls of the fallen city, scrawled in blood, he saw a symbol, the mark of the enemy king who had allied with Darius. This was no simple betrayal. It was a war that had only begun. Years passed. Kaelen vanished into shadow. To the world, he was dead. But in the silence of exile, he sharpened not only his blade, but his will. He learned the arts of assassination, of deception, of vengeance whispered in the dark. And when he returned, it was not as a prince. It was as a ghost. Rumors spread of the Ashvalf, a hooded figure, who struck at traitors, who hunted the allies of Darius and Leora one by one. Lords vanished in the night. Armies crumbled without their commanders. Fear spread faster than fire. And always, before the kill, the Ashvalf left a single message carved into stone: "I remember." Finally, his hunt brought him to the capital rebuilt under a new banner. The banner of Leora, now queen beside a foreign king. The sight twisted Kaelen's soul. The woman who once swore her heart to him now ruled from the throne stolen in fire and blood. She was radiant, adored, untouchable. But Kaelen knew the truth, and he would not rest until she faced it. The final night came. Kaelen infiltrated the castle he once called home, moving like shadow through familiar halls. Guards fell silently, doors opened like old memories. He reached the throne room, where torches flickered over polished stone. And there she was. Leora sat upon the throne of Eryndor, crown glittering like stars. She did not flinch when he stepped from the shadows. "I knew you'd come," she said. Her voice carried no fear, only the weight of inevitability. Their words clashed sharper than swords. "You loved me once," Kaelen said, his voice raw. "I chose survival," she replied coldly. "Love dies. Power doesn't." The silence between them was heavier than war. Then came steel. Their blades collided in the chamber where kings had ruled for centuries. Sparks rained, echoes of destiny shaking the walls. Kaelen fought not only for vengeance, but for the ghost of the man he once was. Leora fought not for love, not even for power, but for the cruel truth she had embraced: betrayal is stronger than loyalty. The battle ended with blood on the throne. Kaelen's blade pressed against her chest, her crown shattered at her feet. But in her final breath, she smiled. "Even now you hesitate," she whispered. "That's why you'll always lose." And before he could strike, she plunged her own dagger into her heart, robbing him of vengeance, choosing her own end. The throne of Eryndor stood empty once more. Kaelen, broken and hollow, turned away as the dawn rose over ruins that could never be rebuilt. The story of betrayal had no heroes, only ghosts. If you stayed with me until this bitter end, thank you. Stories like these remind us how fragile trust can be, and how dangerous betrayal truly is. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you want more tales like this. And remember, sometimes the darkest endings are the ones we can't look away from.